Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Life's a Fight. My name is Beery. Today we have a special guest, and obviously the name of the show speaks for itself. Life's a Fight. Whether you fight inside the ring or you're fighting demons, mentally, physically, emotionally, we'll all go through some sort of fight. So you at home watching this, I can guarantee you, my guest that I have sitting in front of me, not only is he a handsome hunk of a man, but he is a warrior. We've had a good conversation, obviously, before. He's got obviously sat in the chair. I'm excited to get on here. I can tell he's going to be real, raw, honest, vulnerable, whatever it may be. We're going to roll with the punches. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Jack Brubaker. Welcome.
Perfect introduction. Thanks for having us, brother. It's life is a fight. But no, pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to speaking the truth and getting a bit off my chest.
And you know what? And obviously, since we've been talking back and forth before you got on the show, you know, we know you've got obviously a lot that you want to talk about. Some of it you actually haven't spoken about before. So for anyone that's at home, you know, stay until the end. The main thing I want people to obviously get from this, not only will you learn a lot about Jack as a person, but regardless of how tough you are, how many tattoos you've got, we all get hit in life in one way or another, you know, and Jack's going to show that even the toughest of people can get knocked down, but it's about how you get back up. So, Jack, let's fill the people in, obviously, about yourself, mate. Let's start from the very start. Tell me a little bit about your childhood, my brother.
Yeah, right. So, childhood, man, from 0 to 10. So, I got my stepfather. A lot of people don't know my stepfather's not my biological father.
Yep.
The first 10 years of my life was quite abusive, physically, mentally, not only for myself but for my siblings. My mother I haven't had much to do with my biological man over the years, but especially from 10 to only the last couple of years, I've sort of been back in touch with him only slightly, sort of chatting more to him as a mate these days rather than a father. But yeah, so the first 10 years of my life was real tumultuous, sort of, like I said, physical abuse, mental abuse. I was still unloading a lot of these demons later on in life. Working through them with psychologists, and just keeping things bottled up isn't the right way to go about it. So the first 10 years of my life, I'll just cut it there. Boom. From 10 years onwards, that's when my life really comes together, and when my father, Steve Reed, and my mother met and got together, and we moved to Darks Forest, the horse riding ranch down there. So it was rather than I got given a lot of privileges. They were hard-working people, and again, they were not super well off, but they made a good living doing what they were doing. And rather than getting a belting and getting your ass kicked, you got a lot of privileges handed to me. But if you didn't do the work, and there was a lot of work to get brought up on a farm, you got the privileges taken off of you, like whether it be horses, motorbikes, and that stung a lot more than getting the ass handed to you.
Were they quite strict on you, your parents, growing up?
Like in a way, strict is good. I think young men need a strong role model in their life, and they weren't extremely strict, but they expected things to be done, and if they weren't, you got privileges and there were repercussions.
And what were you like as a kid? How would your friends have explained Jack as a person, maybe 13, 14, 15 at that age?
I reckon I was always outgoing, always had that little spark in my step, and always pushed the boundaries when I had to. But again, I respected my elders, and I always looked up to especially to the role models in my life who were the father figures. My two older brothers, they were pretty much my role models, especially my brother Daniel. Man, I'm not just saying it because he's my older brother, but he's honestly probably one of the best people you could ever meet. So I don't think anyone would disagree with me there. And it was just a good time, good upbringing.
Good to hear. And your mum and dad are still around?
Yeah, man, they're powerhousing together. They built a super successful business, earth moving, the SJ Reed Earth Moving. They've built a bit of an empire, and they're going strong, and they're just sort of reaping the results of their hard work and stuff. Finally starting to travel and sort of spend a bit of that money they've worked so hard for.
Good on them, man. Nothing but respect, mate. So you've obviously proven your toughness. You've proven you can fight. Has that always been the case, mate? You know, what got you into boxing? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think I always had that ticker in me. I started rugby league when I was 3 years old, and they used to call me the speed hump. I wouldn't stop them, but I'd slow them down.
Yeah.
And then, growing up, I played rugby league from pretty much when I was 3 years old till I was 17, and I was always like the best way I can describe myself on the field is a bit like Michael Ennis, like just a bit roughing people up and then sort of
give it to him.
Give it to them in the scrum. And a couple of times, I remember this one story. I was down when I was playing for Helensburgh Tigers. We were playing Corrimal, and it might have been the under 15s or 16s, and I think the A reserves or A grade was playing after us at Helensburgh, and they had to call the game off because the whole Corrimal team were waiting for me to come out of the change rooms. I think they wanted to stab me. So I think A grade had to take the boys home, and that game got called off. But I feel like I've spoken about this before. Because I had two older brothers, I never got in any big strife at school, and they were pretty well respected last name, the Brubaker last name.
Yeah.
But like this one time, I was probably I was a real young. Late bloomer, late maturer. So I was probably 17 at the time, and I was staying at my sister's. I was working just up the road at Caringbah. My boss lived up there when I was doing my plumbing apprenticeship, and a couple of boys sort of put it on me after when I was walking back with a loaf of bread for lunch the next day. And I never had that sort of big problem where I didn't have my brothers behind me or that type of scenario. So it was a few days later, I came across a boxing gym when I was at a plumbing shop in Tarrant Point, and I pretty much walked up the gym and met Ryan Waters, and the rest is history.
Beautiful. And I saw you, obviously I saw your first amateur fight. It was by TKO, was that right?
Yeah, it was literally on my 18th birthday, so I was 17 and 364 days at the time, and I fought at Sharky's Leagues Club before it got renovated up in the auditorium, and man, it was a cracking venue and a big night, and it was such a if you saw what I looked like when I was 18, I probably looked like a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
And I remember I fought this kid this man actually, it was probably mid-20s that had two sleeves and looked like the baddest man on the planet, and it turns out he was weak as piss because I think I landed one or two clean shots and he went down like a bag of shit.
Couldn't hit water if you fell out of a boat.
Yeah, literally. So that's a big lesson I've learnt through boxing. Never judge a book by its cover, because man, I fought those type of guys, tatted up, bald-headed, scary-looking dudes, and man, they've been my easiest fights. And guys that rock up with glasses on and sort of their shirt tucked in, they've and not much muscle definition. Yeah, they've been the toughest fights. So.
It's so funny you say that, and I actually bring this up a lot. You see those people walking around, eyeing people off, and I look at them as well. I think it's like you've almost got something to prove. You're not confident within yourself, and how you can't judge a book by its cover. Generally, like you said, the person with their shirt tucked in, their top button done up, are generally the person that they know that they can throw them.
Yeah, especially the people with the least to say. It's always the ones with the biggest mouth. And I was only watching a video a couple of days ago about the CMFU union, and there was a dude there yelling and screaming, fucking all the names under the sun in everyone's face. And when eventually a fight did break out, you watch him throughout the whole thing. He didn't throw one punch. And then he had the most to say and did the least in the fight. So they're the ones you don't really need to worry about. It's the quiet ones, sort of the silent assassins, they say.
That's so true. And what age did you debut at? Obviously, was your pro debut?
So, man, I probably, looking back, man, I don't say I went pro too early, but, man, like I say, I was such a late bloomer physically. Like, I was only looking at my early pro fights, and I was probably 22, I think, around the age, maybe even younger, 21, and still at 21, 22, I looked like a 17-year-old, and it was just, I was training with Waters, and it was at that time where I wasn't going to be going to the Olympics, and again, I thought the idea of becoming a professional fighter and not wearing the headgear and getting to fight with your shirt off was a pretty cool idea, and we just took the bull the bull by two horns and ran with it.
Beautiful. And mate, you've had a really good, obviously, career. We'll get into a little bit later on, but tell me about your career, mate. What are some of the things? Obviously, what would you say your favourite fight is? Obviously, so far.
My favourite fight, again, I've had a few. Probably the fight that I've enjoyed the most, maybe because I literally thought it might have been my last fight, was the Nikita fight. I just remember just really enjoying myself in the ring, and even though I probably didn't have the best preparation for that fight, I feel like maybe because I was enjoying myself in the ring, and again I was talking to him, and I was relaxed, and man, I did really well, and being that I didn't have the best camp, after the fight, I sort of sat down and I thought, man, maybe I still got it, because it had been years that I really felt like I'd sort of had what I once had.
Yeah.
I remember maybe the turning point in my career where I sort of felt like I haven't been the same since in the ring was maybe the Chris George fight.
Yep.
So that was in 2017, and I remember my attitude for I think I was on a 7-8 fight winning streak, and again, like, I was knocking people out and stopping them, and I was hungry, and man, I remember that fight, and it was really possibly 2 fights away from a world title. I was fighting I had the OPBF belt, which is a real prestigious belt, and I defended that 4 times, and even in Japan, I flew over and defended against a guy who was 24 wins, 1 loss, hadn't been beaten in 10 years, and I beat the Japanese champion on his home soil, and I was on a roll, and that's the mentality I had. And I remember leading into that fight, everything was going strong. I was mentally, physically unbeatable, and that's what I truly believed. And I remember people were wishing me luck before the fight, and I used to get the shits of people. I was like, I don't need your luck, keep your luck.
Yeah.
I don't need your luck. And in hindsight, that's exactly what I needed, because I've never said against anyone in any fight. But yeah, that Chris George, he was a quitter. I could tell in the round, and man, he was running from corner to corner, and I was just so hungry, and I was chasing him, and it didn't matter what, at that stage of my career, it didn't matter if it was round 1 or round 12.
Wanted to get him out
I just didn't care. Like, I was that fit and that mentally unbeatable.
Yeah.
And then, like, truth be told, I think at the end of the 6th round, he bit down his mouth guard, closed his eyes, and bowled a big right hand over, and I didn't even feel the punch, but it split my eye from here to here, and my whole eye was hanging down like a mouth.
I remember that fight exactly.
And again, like, all of a sudden the ref stopped it, and they're going over to the corner, and I had the best corner cut man in Australia, Brian Wilmot, and I thought, man, just give me a round, because this dude's a quitter.
Yeah.
The doctor looked at the cut and called the fight off just then and there, and all my hopes and dreams in an instant were wiped like that.
Yeah.
And I remember that fight really took something out of me, because
Bit of a momentum shift.
Life's definitely unfair at times, and again, I was just on such a roll, and sort of that put me in a bit of a spiral outside of boxing. Started going off the rails, drowning my sorrows in booze and drugs, so to speak, and pretty much just that mentality of train hard, play hard after the fights had stuck ever since that fight. So every fight I've been in leading up to since that fight is pretty much gone. Whatever I'm training, I'm in the gym, I'm sober. If I'm not in the gym, I'm out partying.
You're running amok.
Running amok.
A lot of people do that, whether you're an NRL player, AFL player, you're a boxer. You when you're zoned in, you're tapped in during the season. You know what your purpose is, but then as soon as it finishes, mate, you're out running amok.
Yeah,
but
time.
Look, I consider you one of Australia's best. You fought all of Australia's best. You said your favourite fight was Nikita.
Yeah, probably the Nikita fight. The one I enjoyed the most, either that one or Stevie Spark was another great fight.
Yeah.
The tougher fights, like I had that fight of the year with Ty Telford in 2019, and man, that fight, like, that got round of the year, fight of the year in 2019, and they played that fight back on, because the COVID happened after that, so there was no other fight. So they played that fight on main event for a year straight. And to be fair, I hated that fight with a passion, because I went into that fight again just mentally in a really bad mindset of I had 3 opponents pull out. I was meant to fight that Cameron Hammond for a title. He pulled out about 3 opponents in the course of 2 weeks. So it was just a roller coaster up and down. So I'm not taking anything away from Ty Telford, because, man, he's a beast. And I wish I knew a bit more about him before I fought him, because I feel like everyone knew about him but me. And I was like, again, I was down. I didn't even have my gloves on. Probably half an hour before the fight, I remember Matty Rose come down like, "What are you doing? You're on in half an hour." And I think I still had. I was seeing my sponsors, and I was walking around. My mind wasn't there, and yeah, to be fair, when I got in the ring, he came out that first round and like just boom, put me on the back foot and sort of made a fight of it. And that's something I've had my whole career. Just, man, I've never been the most talented or skillful, but I've got determination and I've got stubbornness, which has helped me a lot in life, but it's also hindered me a lot in life.
Absolutely it does. And mate, you know, something obviously from the outside looking in, you've got heart, mate, you know, and you're either born with it or you're not, you know. But one thing, look, when you're enjoying yourself, whether it be fighting, playing footy, working, in a relationship, you're the better version of yourself. You know, did you find how much a percentage of your fight life were you actually enjoying yourself, and how much were you thinking, fuck, you know, I'm only doing this because I'm making money?
Yeah, probably honestly pretty much since that Chris George fight, it's something definitely turned in me. And again, I had opened up my gym maybe about the same time, and I thought in hindsight it was the worst thing I ever done, because I thought the boxing, having my own gym would only benefit my career. I'd be in the gym all the time, and that's exactly what I was. I was in the gym all the time, and then again, I was training. It wasn't training fighters. It was more of a PT gym, and I had some classes, but it was just so draining. Like, I wasn't training fighters. I was training Mark and Debbie in their 40s and 50s, or kids that want to learn how to throw a punch. And again, so you'd be doing back-to-back PTs teaching these people how to throw a punch. And for me, it comes real naturally. And for maybe 50, 60, 70% of the population, it does come a bit naturally. But for those it doesn't, it just doesn't. And like, it's trying to teach a dog how to talk. Like, some people just haven't got it, but they're the people that want to pay the money to come and try to learn. So you're teaching them guys back to back, and again, it's just draining. Like, if you don't get it, you just don't get it. But it was just zapping me. And it just took that hunger and passion away from me. And I had the gym for 5 years, and like I said, it was probably the worst thing I did for my own boxing career.
Because so I know you're a plumber by trade?
So I done my plumbing license pretty much from when I was left school at 16, and I've pretty much done my license all the way up to, I probably finished that when I was 21. So that's what I was doing. Like, I used to get up, run at 5 o'clock in the morning, go to work for 8 hours, digging trenches, laying pipes, go to training, and then towards the end when I was doing my license, I was going to TAFE twice a week at night. So I had no free time, but I still trained twice a day, like religiously. And then when I got to a position where, again, I was making a bit of money, I had some good sponsors, and I got to a position where I could give up full-time work. Again, that was another bad decision, because again, you start hanging out with the people who haven't got jobs. I was hanging out with a few NRL players that, again, had a lot of free time, and then, you find yourself going to the pub, getting into mischief, and then, again, went from training twice a day when I had no free time to lucky to train once a day when I had all the free time in the world.
It's a slippery slope, mate.
It's
a slippery slope. And your weight cuts, you fought at a couple of different weight classes.
I had most of my career at welterweight. So welterweight I always felt welterweight was my weight. Like, again, I was the number one welterweight in the country for probably 5+ years. And that was when I was leading into the Chris George fight. And then, even after that fight, even when I wasn't at my best, I was still, because I was doing like big weight cuts. Like, even when I fought Stevie Spark, I lost probably 7.5 kilos in 16 hours. And man, like, fucking, when you're young and hungry and you still love the sport, like, you can do those type of cuts, and man, you never enjoy the weight cut, but like, it's all part of the process, and it's exciting and it's fun. When you sort of feel like you've lost that bit of passion for it, like, man, losing 7.5 kilos in 16 hours when you're questioning what you're even going to be doing in there the next day, that's when it's super tough. And like, the first 2 kilos comes off you in 20 minutes. So you get that mindset of, oh man, this is sort of going to be easy, because you're so full of water doing the water loading. And then, like, the last 2 kilos, it's like 2.5 hours in the sauna. And when I fought Stevie, I organised with some mates to come help me. Because I was freshly single. I always had my ex come and help me a lot of the time with my weight cuts, and sort of give me water and help me. the boys fell through, so I done that by myself as well. And I remember just laying in that sauna, just sort of thinking, man, this could be it. Just laying on the ground.
Oh, it's a bad feeling.
Man, for people that haven't done those type of cuts, like it's hard to describe what goes through your head. And man, I remember just even rubbing my eyes when I was coming out, and like you couldn't even feel your eyeballs. Like they felt like they were so fast sucked back in your head. And again, when I fought in Japan, because of my tattoos, I couldn't use the saunas over there. So I remember I was in the doing my weight cuts in this little Japanese bath in our hotel, and the bath would have been about, I don't know, 800 by 600, but it was deep. So I was like, in this bath, I had my ex-girlfriend bringing in a kettle with boiling water, and like those type of times over there just makes you really appreciate yourself, maybe the retired life is best life.
That's so true. You know, obviously you played rugby league growing up and then became a professional boxer. Rugby league's a team sport. Would you say boxing's a lonely sport?
Oh, it's a lonely sport in the world. Again, especially when I had the gym, that's when I got the most lonely, because I had my own gym, and again I sort of left Ryan Waters because I felt like I needed to move forward with my career, and Ryan was a great motivator. He get you super fit, but I felt like I just needed something a bit extra with my boxing. So when I opened up my own gym, that's when I really found it was super lonely, because I wasn't in that gym with a bunch of other fighters, and that's something I definitely lacked, and something maybe I regret in my career of not being in the gym with other fighters. And I was bringing Graham Shaw, who trained me for a lot of my fights later on. He was coming to my gym and he was training me in my gym. But yeah, like it was just super lonely. And then he was just, all he wanted to do was just fair play for him. It was just, all he worried about was your boxing when he was there. Outside that, I didn't have anyone checking up on me, holding me accountable. I had my own gym. Like over the course of the less I got interested in my gym, the more slippery slope I found. Like up until Kris, Georgia, I wouldn't drink like 12 weeks before a fight. And then like it was 10 weeks, and then it was 8 weeks, and then like I was pretty bad. Maybe 5 years ago, I was actually really bad. I was like probably a low-key functioning drug addict, like with the cocaine. And again, I was sort of doing a lot of drugs, and looking back at this now, it makes me cringe and sick. But I never let anyone down. If I had sparring, I would rock up to sparring the next day, like no sleep, off my head, and they always probably knew, but I never. I was sort of like try to brush it under the rug as if they don't know. But even with Graham, whether or not this is a conversation we had, and he said maybe we need to go our separate ways later on. Maybe he saw the slippery slope I was going down
because of the partying.
The partying.
Well, obviously when you're fighting, you've got the purpose. You've got a fight coming up. You might not have retired now, but you're at the back end of your career, would you say? Yeah, no, definitely. I deep down, I actually think I am done. Like, especially the last couple of years, I've been back on the tools. I've been setting up life after boxing, because the biggest thing, that any professional athlete needs is a purpose. And man, I think because I was just in such a bad way for a couple of years, to be fair. Again, I still have my bad days now. Don't get me wrong, but a few years back, I lost my I say he's my best mate. So he was my ex-girlfriend's father. And again, we were together for probably 7 years, and man, me and him were like that. Like we were so similar in every way, and I idolized him. He was the best man. He was eccentric, exuberant, loud, life of the party. He was the most generous man. He made millions. He retired early in his early 30s with 60 million plus in the bank. He made millions early, and he paid for friends' weddings, flew them up to Hamilton Island, had houses, properties everywhere. Just generous, happy, shared his wealth with everyone. And unfortunately, a few years back, it was maybe 2019 or whenever the election was, he had like most of his money tied up in the trees down Tasmania,
And there was like a 7-year investment to return 5 times the money, and he was the biggest investor in it.
Yeah.
And so he thought he was getting 350 million that year. So and he started spending that money thinking it was coming in. And when they had the hung election and the Greens got in, and the Greens gave them a vote, so they had the trees down Tasmania, pulp mill.
Yeah.
So the Greens got in and said, we don't want the pulp mill. So $350 million was worthless overnight.
Oh, wow.
And so that just set a steamroll of bad things. And like still, we had a couple years after all that happened where we had to downsize his house. But like, man, I just watched the demise of such a great man, and just every day.
Was he struggling mentally after that? Could you sort of see
I didn't notice, but he was with his wife, I feel, but because he was still just like us. I used to look at him like, how is he coping? Like he's just still the most generous man, even though he lost everything. He lived for his kids, and like his daughter was like the apple of his eye, and his kid. I just looked up to him as just the most amazing father, because I love my parents. My parents have done a lot for me, but they were always work orientated because they were building their business, and I feel like maybe I caught Dale at the back end of his, like, again, he made all his money, so he wasn't really working. Yeah. But like I looked up to him because like how he was with his kids, and
he was the best mate.
Oh, he's the best. Like because I was fighting and I was training, so I had a lot of free time, and where we just go to the pub or we'd go play golf and drink and talk, and he'd tell me all the stories. Like he had stories of days that eventually, like he moved when him and his wife broke up, and like that just tore him apart. They'd been together since they were 15 years old, and it was like that's when I saw the dark side, and that's maybe what she was seeing for years, that when after he lost it all, that I didn't see. Yeah. But he moved into our unit complex, and like I went from seeing him probably every second day to every day. Yeah. And that's when I saw like the dark side of him come out, and like the depression and the worthlessness. And man, I get it. Like he was one of the most well-known people around Cronulla, and had that wealth, and to be publicly known to lose everything, it was there was just a ticking time bomb. And like again, I didn't see it because he'd be up and down like a roller coaster, and man, it was a hard time of my life.
How's it affected you?
Oh, big time. So I still struggle. Like I was there, again, like I said, I saw him every day for the last 6 months of his life, and I saw the slippery slope, and to deal with someone like that, like it was extremely draining. Like I didn't see it at the time, but you'd be pumping them up at golf. You'd be telling them, man, like he was such an entrepreneur. He had all these ideas. Like he would spin any idea to make money. Like he was good at making money, obviously. But again, when his wife left him, like that was like the final straw. And it was, you could pump them up for 6 hours, and man, Colonel Sandland's made millionaire again later. Like all these, Steve Jobs lost everything. Like I tell them all these stories. Then after 6 hours of pumping them up, they're like, nah, man, I'm done. I'm worthless. Like I don't want to be here anymore. And it was fucking the hardest point of my life. And like he actually tried maybe about 4 weeks before he slid his wrist, and it was just such a happy, healthy guy, like up until that point. I was like, fucking, that's when I really realized how bad it was. But you're like, man, you need help. And then he goes, no, I just had a bad day. And then he was such a positive person when, like, he put that mask up, and he convinced you that he's okay. And I was like, fuck, he's okay. But again, like the night before he took his life, again, I was with him, and the night before I had dinner with my ex and his mum. And his wife, and again she goes, no, like again, like she was just so cold about it, and I was like, man, like this is the father of your kids, and like, man, like he's hurting. He's like, nah, he's been hurting and threatening them for years, and it is what it is. And like I was just like gobsmacked. But so when I saw him the next day, I told him, like, because he was always like, I need you to be honest with me. Like, what did she say? I don't want people lying to me, give me false hope. So I said, like, man, she doesn't want anything to do with you. And they're like, I've never seen a broken man, like his eyes glazed over, and man, like knowing what he'd done 4 weeks before, I was like fucking worried. And then again, I didn't sleep a wink that night, because he went home, we walked across the hallway, and I remember I drove to work the next morning, and I went to the gym, and I seen his work truck was gone, and I thought to myself, thank fuck, and he's made another night, but yeah, he went to work, and he's back on the tools and as a chippy, and took his life at work.
You know, we talk about mask. You know, you obviously lost your best mate to suicide. Tell me about yours. Everyone reacts in their own way. Some people hide it through drinking. Some people hide it through laughter. Some people don't cry. Some people cry.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your rock bottom.
Oh man, it was tough, but I don't think it really hit me for maybe a few months because I put on that mask of. I remember the hardest thing I've ever done, and I think I'll ever have to do in my life. Was go and pick Tszyu up because I was at the gym. I had a client and I had a phone call. She goes, "You need to come to the house." And as soon as she called me, like I knew, and I can't speak highly of how good Dale was as a person and a father, and to have to go pick up his daughter and my partner for 6 years, 7 years, and sort of have to tell her that her dad took a life. I feel like I put on a big mask and I buried those emotions down super deep to try to be there for her and the family. And I feel like I was a strong rock for a few months, but it wasn't until, it just definitely changed the dynamic of our relationship. Again, it wasn't until after we broke up about end of December, early January, and it was a tour wedge between us. I had a vendetta against her mum because I felt like her mum was so cold against him, and
Resentment.
when I had resented her mum because I feel like when he had all the money, there was no problem how he was, but as soon as he lost everything, Tszyu was just such a beautiful person in her own right, and again, it was her only parent she had left, and so we were fighting about that, and again, I probably wasn't in the best state of mind or mental state myself because, to be fair, my best mate for the last couple of years at least was severely depressed.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise. So maybe that wore off on me. And again, I wasn't enjoying my own gym. So maybe I wasn't motivated in my life. So, I could definitely see now why we drifted apart in my relationship with her. But at the time, I was just like, well, it's your fault. Like, you're not giving me attention, this and that. And so when we finally did break up, I needed validation, and I found it real early in this girl who was from Married at First Sight. And again, like Tszyu said, she would need to stay at her mum's house for a week. We need to go on a break, and again, like day one of a break, I met this girl up on the swimming pool of this beach, and she was a good sort, stunning, and they're giving me a bit of validation, a bit of attention, and so I just jumped on it and left on both hands, and then that was just the final straw with Tszyu. Just cut me cold turkey, boom, and I always thought Tszyu I could do anything in my life, and Tszyu would love me forever. Yeah, but that was to her credit. I disrespected her, and that was it. And man, it caught me off guard, and I tried to get her back for like months, but like it wasn't till one night down the gym. I think I was having trouble with this new girl, and I realised, man, I threw away a housewife for a hoe. Yeah, and I was like, man, like fuck, what have I done? And again, the Dale thing was starting to really sort of creep up, and really I was having some dark times and dark nights, and. But one night in particular, I was at the gym, and it was maybe just as I signed the Stevie Spark fight, but man, I was fucking bawling my eyes out. I was trying to reach out for Tszyu for months or weeks, and wasn't getting anything in return. And the whole, not only did I lose Tszyu, I lost Dale. The whole extended family, they were like rocks. They were like their closest family. They caught up once a fortnight, had uncles, cousins. It was just, I lost everything. Yeah. And I wasn't enjoying my gym, wasn't enjoying my boxing. And man, I stood on a stool in the gym. I had this chain hanging down from the middle of my ring, and I put a boxing bag on. Man, I had the chain wrapped around my neck, and man, I was fucking crying. I was about to kick off, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to give myself 6 months. So that was on the 6-month anniversary.
You were about to do something bad.
Right, I was about to jump off. I was fucking done.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? Fuck them. I'm going to give them 6 months. And if nothing changes, if I can't get her back in 6 months, and I'm going to do it on Dale's 1 year anniversary. I'm going to fucking neck myself on Dale's 1 year. I'm going to do the same what he done. I'll do the exact same way. And that's the mindset that you have.
I know this is the first time that you've spoken about this. Look, you're obviously showing how tough you are inside the ring, and as a fighter, you've got that stigma, I'm tough, but mental health doesn't discriminate.
No,
Jack, how are you with opening up? We're talking about that mask. Would you put on a mask? Are you a crier? Are you a communicator? When you're going through a time like this, did you act like you were sweet when you were not?
Yeah, probably not. Like, it was a real tough. I didn't tell anyone about that. Maybe I told Elise, my partner, now about that night. But my parents knew how dark I was because they knew how much I looked up to Dale, and man, it was just an extremely dark point in my life. And I remember that's why I pretty much signed this fight, because boxing's always been, when I get myself too off the rails, boxing is what brings me back. So if I'm going off the rails, boxing is what keeps me on the straight and narrow, gives me purpose. So again, I'm good for 8-10 weeks during the camp. And then after the fight, again, you have those big crushes, you have those big dopamine hits. And to be honest, even the last probably 6, 7, 8 fights, like, I haven't even really enjoyed boxing, but I've enjoyed what boxing gives me. Boxing gives me attention, gives me that dopamine, gives me exposure to talk to people and gets everyone messaging you. Yeah. So it's just like it's a crazy dopamine rush. It's like a drug. Yeah. And you get addicted to that high of fighting, which is the walkouts and it's a drug. And again, even though I knew my boxing wasn't sort of was coming to my love for boxing was coming to an end. Yeah. But I still loved that rush of what boxing gave me, and I had to box to get that. So that was just the catch-22 of what I had to do. Yeah. But like I said, after that night, a week later, or as it turns out, this long blonde hair girl followed me on Instagram, and knowing her now, like, it's just so out of the blue for her, because she's real keeps to herself, and it's my partner now, Elise, and the love of my life. And it's so crazy because, again, I started talking to her maybe a month before I fought Stevie Spark, and it was just that person came into my life and at a real low point, and again, it gave me a bit of purpose. And after I fought Stevie, I didn't go off the rails because I had Elise to sort of keep me in check. And then we had lockdown, which was COVID. And then we pretty much we were locked down together for 2-3 months. So our relationship just excelled so quickly in such a short amount of time. And like, she's just such a strong, beautiful person. And
how long have you been with her for now?
Oh, pretty much. Yeah, I met her for the first night. So we were talking before Stevie, and I met her maybe 3 nights after I fought Stevie Spark. So I was busted up. Man, Stevie Spark and Nikita, the 2 hardest punches I fought. Then Nikita could punch. But
you fought Tszyu as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I fought Tszyu, but Stevie punches harder and Nikita punches harder. Yeah. Fucking every time Stevie hit me, it was like, man, like, you can feel it in your bones. Like, it just fucking, not once in any of my fights, because that's what I'm well known for. I'm well known for having a tough chin and coming forward. But I know Stevie's had, like, lightning in his hands, and that's why they call him Spark. But every time he hit me, like, he punched me here, I had, like, 2 big black eyes, punched me here, split my ear open, punched me here, tear my peck off my arm. Yeah. Like, every time he hit me, it was just hard. But I met her at in the city. She came in and met me, and again, like, she just said, like, I just look like this panda bear. I had these 2 big black eyes, and it was pretty much one of the best nights of my life meeting her, because we just had such a fun night. It was just like instant connection, pretty much love at first sight, and it was still one of my favourite nights.
Well, you were saying about look, obviously you lost your best mate, and then you were to suicide, and then you were potentially going to take your own life. And I'm so grateful that you didn't. What advice?
So am I. It's me. Man, the advice, I think I'll cut you short, but what advice I give people? Nothing lasts forever. Yeah. Again, like, you might have a bad day. When I was having a bad month and I was having a bad year, but man, nothing lasts forever. The highs don't last and the lows don't last. You just got to ride the wave, and again, you got to just tough it out during the lows, and appreciate the highs, because man, life is a wave, and
it really is.
Again, like, man, I still have bad days, and right now, talking about Dale, I feel fine, but some days I come home from work and I sit in the shower in the dark and cry for half an hour. Yeah. Or I got this playlist on my phone, and like if I'm feeling a bit emotional, I just put the headphones in, put this soundtrack on of like 10 songs that we used to listen to together.
Yeah.
And I fucking cry my eyes out. But it's like you just gotta let the emotions out. But man, like I'm so glad because at that point I was gonna take my life. It was more out of spite, to be fair. Like I was more like, man, I'm gonna do it for not a reaction, but it was weird. Like all I cared about was Zoe wasn't returning my phone calls.
Would you communicate that you were struggling leading up to that moment, or would you? It was realistically that would have become to a huge shock to everyone.
Yeah, big time. Probably not to anyone but Zoe. Yeah, probably. I remember I probably sent her. I was trying so hard to reach her and get in touch because, like, man, we went through a horrible thing together, and I just felt like, I definitely made a mistake, and I definitely rubbed this new girl in her face, and it was fucking the worst thing I could have done at that point. And at that point, like, it was just horrible. And man, I was just a silly boy for doing what I done.
Yeah.
But no, apart from her, like my parents knew I was struggling. Yeah. But they probably didn't know the extent of how bad I was. And a couple of times, like they would come and find me in the gym, and I would turn my phone off for hours or maybe even days and just don't want to talk to them, and they'd come and find me in the gym crying and chat to me. But you go, no, I'm sweet. Putting that and it's the same thing as what Dale done to me, and you believe him. Yeah. And even when he cut his wrist, he helped him patch him. Oh man, it was silly. Oh, don't worry about it. I just had a few red wines. I was emotional. Like, don't worry, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen again. And I know whether it's naiveness or what, but you believe them.
But that's why it's so important as blokes, as brothers, that we got to check in on one another. I've lost, two of my best mates recently. I've lost mates to suicide, man, and it is a problem, obviously, amongst men, and like I said, mental health doesn't discriminate. You'd be one of the toughest blokes, mate, walking around, but it just goes to show that you go through your own struggles.
That's mean. Everyone has their demons, men, females. Everyone has the tough times, but. Like more recently, especially I've been like reaching out to my brothers. Like I got my two older brothers, Daniel and Justin, and like there was numerous times. I'd be driving home and they're just fucking pulling over in the car crying, and I'd send my brother a message and he'd come and pick me up, and they're just fucking have a ball out, and man, it's wild how bad a mindset you can get in. Like, speaking about it now, you're like, man, how can I get that bad? But you have bad days, but a bad day doesn't mean a bad life.
That's so true, brother. But it's so important to check in on your mates, to let them know that you're there for them. It's good to have a laugh, but let them know, they can be comfortable to cry or whatever. What did I say to you today? When we'll all go through bad moments, you can call me anytime.
Yeah, big time, man. And I truly appreciate that, because it is like, it's such a hard thing. When you are going through that time, the last thing you want to do is call someone who's out of the blue and tell them, man, I'm struggling right now. But
you got to.
Yeah, you have to, because
you have to.
Yeah, you need that positive mindset, and because you're such a positive person, again, like even when you're asking me about this podcast, I've had yesterday off work, and I need to keep myself busy. Yeah. And if I'm not busy, I'm in my head. Yeah. So that's why, again, I've been quite busy as of late. So I've been the best I've been. Yeah. I've been a better father, a better partner. But yesterday, man, when you're asking me about this podcast, and again, I was writing down the Dale things and what I thought I wanted to talk about, and then because I had that free time and I was at home, man, I was dark yesterday and I had a bad day. Yep. And again, I called you this morning. I said, man, I'm not up for this. I don't want to come in here. But man, your positivity and your mindset, and man, like you said, instantly, as soon as I got off the phone with you, I felt better instantaneously.
Good, man. I appreciate that. And I encourage you to do that more. And for anyone that's at home that may be struggling, pick up the phone. Jack said about how you wouldn't want to annoy people. You think, oh no, I don't want to annoy him to check in. You're better off doing that and maybe annoying him for that 1 second, asking, are you actually sweet? Rather than maybe they take their own life or they harm themselves.
Oh, big time. It's not worth it. Like, I've said it over and over. Again, a bad day doesn't mean a bad life. And again, you can be in the darkest spot for a year, but you come out of it. Yep. And I've got I'm a father now.
You are too.
Man,
what's your little boy?
Yeah, little boy, Jack Brubaker.
How good's that?
BB, man. You can't describe how good being a father is. And Man,
Tell me about it.
Bro, he's a chip off the old block.
Yep.
Man, I can't tell you in words. It's just the emotion he brings. Like, man, the best days of my life now, better than any fights I've had, better than any wins, is just where watching him either kick a ball out of the park or he'll watch the boxing on the TV. And like he'll mimic what they're doing. Like he's just got that in him. He's going to be a little superstar. I can tell you.
Would you encourage him to get into boxing? Are you going to lead him in that direction?
Man, whatever he wants to do. Again, I'm going to get him into everything. I'm going to get him into golf. I'm going to get him into tennis. I'm going to get him into swimming, football, soccer, and then whatever he's good at. Because I feel like before I had all the help, especially the last couple of years, I've had all the help in the world with really good trainers, really good dietitians, strength people. But just because I lost that hunger for the boxing, before I had that hunger up until that Chris George fight, man, I didn't have the best trainers. I used to watch that Roy Jones highlights, used to watch Toro Gaddy highlights, and I just loved the sport. And that's why I done so well before I had all the help. I was number one welterweight in the country for 5 years because I just loved it. So boxing's definitely a sport you can't do unless you love, mind you, I've done it for the last couple of years, but I love the attention, like I said, so that's what's kept me going.
Well, everything's got swings and roundabouts, and I'm sure there's a lot of young boxers that actually look up to you. What advice would you give to any of these young boxers about getting into boxing? What would you say to them?
Yeah, surround yourself with good people, and again, I wish maybe I kept in the gym with more fighters in the gym that I could bounce myself off. Find yourself a good gym, but keep yourself busy. And like I said, man, stay away from people who will bring you down outside of the gym. So people who are offer you nights out, drugs, and again, the better I got with my boxing career, the more publicity I got, the more temptations I had. And like even still, I still go to the pub now, and I still get myself in some strife because like I just go for lunch, and Elise is like, why can't you just go to lunch and have like a couple of beers with like the boys and then come home like everyone else? Because I had every intention of doing that, but I'll go to the pub with the boys, and then someone will, Brubaker, can I buy you a beer? And then I'll come to the toilets, and then before you know it, it's like a day 2 days later, my phone's been on airplane mode because I'd rather just not worry about that at that moment. But you come home a couple of days later, crying, poor me, and man, like Elise is amazing, but she knows when to kick the boot in when she needs to be, because again, that's one thing maybe my ex wasn't really good at, because she never, I just had free reign. Like again, I need a bit of someone to pull me back in line, and a bit of a strong figure, which Elise is.
Well, they say that show me your friends and I'll show you your future. You are a product obviously of the environment that you're hanging in.
Big time.
Now, look, like I said, your boxing career has been unbelievable, and I'm not going to rule you out that you obviously have a comeback, because we never know if that spark comes back or whatnot. But tell me about your life after the boxing.
So man, this is what I'm doing now. This is my new obsession and my new addiction, because again, like it's always been, if I'm training is my addiction. If I'm partying's my addiction. Right now, I'm just putting all my time and energy into my business. So again, I've done my plumbing license before I gave up full-time work. And it's been a blessing, because when I wasn't really sure what I was going to be doing life after boxing these last couple of years, maybe the last year, and to be fair, the last 2 fights I had, it was just to pretty much keep my name relevant for when I launched my new business, which is Fresh Filters. It's when I was working with my parents, we were digging up old water pipes and giving water straight to the houses in Sydney, and you wouldn't believe what's inside these water pipes, like rust, dirt, grit, grime. So they're pumping the water full of all these chemicals like chlorine to help eliminate all the bacteria in the pipes. So once I saw that, I sort of got my mind ticking. Maybe I can use my athlete background and sort of divert into that, especially being a new father. Like, man, I didn't want my son drinking this water that I'm watching this dirt come out of. So I've been putting my time and energy into this new business, which is installing full house water filtrations. And man, it's been doing really well, and I've been getting really good feedback, and it's just it's given me a bit of purpose and drive, and I'm enjoying it. I'm running my own business. I got my free time to take my son to school when I need to, and a lot more flexible. But like Sydney water, man, it's a harmful for you.
As soon as you showed me what we're actually drinking through the tap, because I used to be one of those people, I don't care, it looks clear in a cup. Clear. And then when obviously you see what's going through it, I'm getting one in my house 100%. You know,
I'll come sort you out, brother.
I know you will, my man. And everyone at home, have a look at obviously his page, and it's definitely something that you should invest in rather than your kids, your partner, your dog, whatever you make and drink that. It's definitely worth it.
It's not just drinking, also like showering. Also, like Elise has long, beautiful blonde hair, and she, her extensions, like the chlorine in the water at our place at home before we put one in, like it was going that tingy colour. And like I've done filtration systems at houses with their kids with eczema, so they're bathing in that water as well. So it's getting rid of all that harsh chemicals for showering, bathing, drinking. It's just got so many benefits.
So tell me, have you ruled out a comeback to boxing?
Man, right now, like again, tell you what also really took me off the last couple fights was, man, I was just pumping, I was burning the candle on both ends. So I get a new father, so I was back working on the tools, plumbing, sort of trying to remember all my all the stuff I've forgotten over the years. So I was working big hours with the boys. I went to TAFE with A-Quest Plumbing, shout out to them. And so I was running at 5 o'clock. I was working big hours again, and I was trying to be a father. I was just burning the candle and training in winter as well. Like, man, I was running around that track at Sylvania at 5 o'clock in the morning in middle of winter. I just go, fucking hell, what am I doing? What am I still doing?
Not again.
Yeah, what am I still doing this for? So if I fight again, who knows? If the business picks off and I got a lot more free time and it's doing really well, who knows? Never rule anything out.
If you came back, who's someone you'd like to fight? Let's say hypothetically speaking, who's someone you'd like to fight?
I'll tell.
Or maybe fight again.
It'd be the money fight. So as much as I feel sorry for him, man, that Michael Zarafa, like this is why when I fought Tszyu, man, I had the worst camp possible you could possibly have. I just went to Jeff Fennick. I had started training 16 weeks out. 12 weeks out, we were in Thailand. He had open heart surgery. I left my old trainer. I didn't have a trainer. I still just trained myself. I had one of his mates training me. And then I ended up trying, because I was just training so hard, I wasn't doing any recovery. I ended up getting a staph infection in my arm 4 weeks out. It went throughout my whole body, so I couldn't train for 4 weeks. And like I could barely like walk a K, let alone fight.
And he's not a good person to not get a good camp against.
Yeah, so Jeff was begging me not to take the fight, but man, like I talk the talk. So you make your bed, you got to lay in it. So I told Jeff, I said, man, I'm taking this fight regardless. So one, it was a good money fight for me. Two, I talked so much shit in that fight, I had to go out and take my medicine. And that's where I feel like Zarafa, man, I feel for him because I feel like he had a bit of bad management. And maybe his team told him not to take the fight, but he done so much build up for that fight. And the Tszyu last name, it's such a popular last name. Like everyone is riding that wave in Australia, and you got to understand the reasons why. Like two young, great fighters. Tszyu, one of the greatest fighters coming out of Australia. So as much as I feel sorry for him, but Zarafa would be a great fight because
he'd be a great
money fight.
You know what?
And it's a win-win because right now, unfortunately, everyone hates him. So
but people just jump on the bandwagon. Look, I personally have never met Michael Zarafa, you know, and I'm not a majority. I don't want to just jump on the bandwagon because everyone hates him. I like that he sticks up for himself. Speaking of sticking up for himself and his brother, I actually didn't mind the fact that his brother was there for Michael. Obviously, I know what he did was wrong.
Oh, big time. I even said the same thing to my brother because, again, my eldest brother jumped on the bandwagon and the next day he's like, bro, you see what Rafa's brother did? Like, what the fuck was he thinking? I said, bro, you do the exact same thing. He goes, yeah, I would. I said, bro, you would do the exact same thing. So, like so what?
People are quick to throw stones.
100%. People do jump on the bandwagon and, man, like, it is what it is. I feel like if everyone was put in that situation, they'd be doing the exact same thing.
I love that. You know, and I don't care if a million people are bagging, say, Tommy. If Tommy's good to me, I'm good to Tommy.
Exactly right, you know? Man. But, I just feel like he had a bit of bad management. But now he's got that bad guy image, and I feel like he's running with it, and that's what Mundine done. Mundine backed it up probably a bit more than Zarafa has, so that's what people also say. I know. The one thing that sort of got away from me over the years was the Australian title. And to be fair, like, man, I'd leapfrogged the Australian title. I won the World Youth title, WBC World Youth title. I was ranked the top 15 in the WBC for like probably 3 years when I defended my OPBF belt for numerous times. But I never won the Australian title. I'd love to come back, and I fought Mitchell Leake for the middleweight title my last fight, but it's funny, man. Boxing is so tough. Like when I fought at the start of the year, I stayed sober for like the first time for probably 14, 15 weeks for the fight down Adelaide.
Yeah.
And I trained harder for that fight than I did for any fight in the past 6 years. And man, got through the round three. I had 3 good rounds, and then I just hit a wall.
Yeah.
And it's not like I was gassed. I just had no energy, and like just my will and my grit got me through another 3 rounds. And then I remember sitting down and I told Ryan was training me at the time, and I was like, man, I'm done. Like, I don't want to fight anymore, eh?
Yeah.
And he goes, bro, you got 2 rounds. You got just 2 rounds. Just get out there. I was like, nah, bro, I'm done, hey? Like,
yeah.
And then he's like, no, just 2 more rounds. And I went out for the 7th round, and I came back down. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm actually done this time. Like, fucking throw the towel in, man. I don't want to fight anymore. Like, I haven't got it in me. That was the first time I've ever thought I haven't got it in me to get up.
Yeah.
And then he fucking kept talking me into it. And because I had the shits, I was like, you know what? Like, fuck you. Like, I'll get out and I'll finish this round.
Yeah.
I went out there like a bit of a bad attitude because like he wouldn't let me quit. And I ended up dropping the guy in the 8th round because I was just fucking pissed off. And I was like, man, fair play. But that fight was like a turning point for me where I thought, man, like it's a young man's game. Not the fight's sort of the easy part, but and then like that's the hard thing. I struggled through 8 rounds there, and then when I fought Mitchell, I had the worst camp possible. I went from sparring like 3 times a week. Maybe I overtrained for that fight, but I was sparring once a week. I tore my calf running. Probably 5 weeks out, grade 2 tear, which is like 4 weeks on the sideline for NRL players.
Yeah.
So I sort of couldn't run, and then I was like, you know what, man, I'm just gonna give it my crack. I'm gonna go out on my sword, and I'm just get in the ring and just throw my hands. And oh man, you could hear my voice when I was talking for that fight too. I was sick as a dog. And then I got through 10 rounds easy, and I actually thought that Mitchell Leake was carrying me for that fight because I spoke to him after, and I said, bro, thanks for carrying me. He goes, what do you mean? I said, man, like, I think it felt more like a sparring session for me. And I enjoyed the fight because I kind of knew it was my last fight again.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I was going to enjoy this fight.
Yeah.
And then he goes, no, man, like, no way. I wasn't carrying you, bro. Like, you hurt me, like, in round 4 and maybe round 5. Like, I was, like, really wary. And I was like, swear. And so it's, like, a funny thing, man. Like, I could train for 14 weeks and not touch a piss and have the perfect camp and feel horrible in the ring. And then have a horrible camp and feel really good in the ring. So
it's crazy how life works, you know.
It's tough, man. But like I said, I'm 99% sure I'm done. Yeah. Unless someone comes out with big money or a big show and a big opportunity. I think, again, I want to retire for what people remembered me as. As a tough dude that never quit. I look at Mundine, and I think he had way too many fights like later on in his career. Yeah. Because when people think of Mundine, you don't think about 3-time world champion, 3 different weight divisions. You think, he got knocked out first round by Zarafa, got bashed by Horn. Yeah. So that's how you remember them. Yeah. So, like, man, I want to be remembered for being a tough cunt and that tough dude that doesn't quit, never been hurt, never been knocked down, never been...
And, you know, let me say, no one can ever question you for your heart. You know, as a mate, I know you've got heart, but as a mate, I can see your growth. I want to finish on this. I have... You've shown that you've been at your highs through to losing your best mate, through to wanting to end your life yourself. To anyone out there watching this, you know, tell them what's some advice that you'd give, obviously through your highs and lows, to your younger self.
To my younger self, just to keep busy throughout my years. When I get myself in trouble is when I've got too much free time on my hands. And I feel like that's true for a lot of young kids. And I feel like, COVID especially, you think, like, I used to think, because I worked so hard in my early years, I used to, like I said, run, train, work, TAFE, like for 2 years. That was my life. I had no free time. But all I wanted was free time. And when I got free time, like, it was probably the worst depression I've ever been through because I just had too much free time. I lost my purpose. So, just to keep yourself busy. find something. If it's not the gym or like in hindsight, I wish I kept plumbing and like sort of start my business and use that boxing to leverage my plumbing like I'm doing now, because I feel like I'd be a lot further ahead in life than sort of what I am now. But man, I've lived 10 lives in one. I've lived hard, I've trained hard, I've partied hard, and I've fought hard. But yeah, I'm happy and healthy now, and got a beautiful young family and a beautiful partner. And like I said, man, that dark point in my life, man, if I did jump off that stool and I guarantee I probably would have regretted it straight away.
Yep.
Who knows? Like, again, I wouldn't be a father, I wouldn't have a son. And like I said, life is all about waves. You got to ride the wave. You got to enjoy the highs, because be thankful for them and ride out the lows.
So
true. Just know that it's just like this, and you just got to keep that positive mindset and surround yourself with good people.
So true, my brother. Suicide is a permanent solution for a temporary problem.
Big time.
And I just want to say, Jack, thank you so much for coming on today, mate. You spoke from the heart. You're real, raw, honest, mate. And I love you, brother. You're a brother of mine for life. So, man, I hope everyone obviously at home enjoyed this. Jack, man, love you, my bro.
Big time, brother. Thanks for having us.
Thank you to the people at home. Until next week, my people.